Well, hello, y'all. Me with my milkshake pink tea jug.
Because we're going to spill the tea.
Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. Happy Marvelous Monday. Magical Monday, Mythical Monday, Marvelous Monday, Brice Monday. Our favorite nerd, Professor Brice. I think that's what we shall call you. Just because you're so fun to have on the show. And I know we've been having some chuckles off air, so no, sorry guys, we are a little bit late for today's show, but really happy to have you all here. Welcome. And how are you, beautiful Brice? How's your weekend been?
I'm good. I always love being here, you guys, and I love that we have people that enjoy this stuff too, because y'all. They didn't need reality shows back then. Their lives were just like the most dramatic. So I was telling you, Shanti, we're only doing part 1 today because I thought Peter the Great would be like 1 episode. I was going to find the scandalous stuff behind him, and that was going to be it. But then I learned about his sister, and I was like, hold on.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This is so juicy. So we're going to talk about his sister today because, girl, listen.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to this. And hello, Jessica. Hello, Jeannie. Hello, Simona. Always lovely to see you gorgeous girls in the chat. And yeah, just enjoying our Monday with us. I know it's morning for you. After that, hello, Brock. Imagine seeing you, yeah, Brock. Brock's here with the girls today.
I was about to say, we got the Nancy Drews, now we got the Nathan Drew. So
as well, yeah. Cool to have you guys here. Anyway, okay, so tell us what's happening.
You guys know that this whole thing started. What had happened was we did Rasputin at the end of January, and I thought, or at the end of 2023, and I thought the beginning of January we would kick off the new year with another Russian conspiracy, which is the Anastasia Romanov from the early 20th century. Well, you guys know me, like I'm going to make sure I find out all the dirt. And so that dirt took me back 300 years. So we're building up to the Bolshevik Revolution. And I thought, let's just go back to the beginning of this House of Romanov, because people have this like view of the Romanovs as being somehow like these saviors. Y'all, they're not. Like, they're not. They're worse than the Windsors. Like, I'm not saying that a child should be executed, of course not, but they're not the saviors. Like, two things get to be true, right? The Bolsheviks were bad and the royal family were both bad. Like, two things can be true here. So I was telling Shanti, I was like, yeah, we're just going to do 1 episode Peter the Great. Then I found his sister and I was like, hold the phone. We got to do 2 Peter the Great episodes, because this is how my mind works. This is how I entertain myself. I love music, and I also love musical theater. So when I start studying history or studying stories from history, I get on my head. And the first thing that came in my head when I started studying about Peter the Great was the Game of Thrones theme song. And I don't know if you guys were all fans of Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones was basically, I thought it was more taken from War of the Roses, which was in the English lineage. But as I was studying Peter the Great and his family and his siblings, I was like, damn, this is real Game of Thrones. And then I found his sister, Sophia, and then I actually stumbled upon an article that she was the inspiration for Cersei Lancaster in Game of Thrones. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So obviously I was onto something. So if you guys saw Game of Thrones and you saw the character of Cersei Lancaster, I don't think Sophia was boinking her brothers, but I don't know. There was none of that mention. I actually think that the real Sophia might have been quite a lesbian. We'll show a picture of her a little bit later. She looked very lesbian-esque. So
is that the beginning of Game of Thrones? Because I watched maybe the first 3 or 4 seasons. Is that the one where she's with her brother?
She's the one who's boinking her brother. Yeah, who's married to the king, who dies and has kids with her brother. Yeah, that's Cersei. Shame. Where she has to walk through the town naked. But that's Cersei Lancaster. So we're gonna meet the original Cersei Lancaster. And you guys, I don't mean to sound mean and petty, but I'm gonna be mean and petty. And we'll show the picture a little bit later of her. The actress who played Cersei Lancaster is drop dead gorgeous. The real Sophia, not so much. so
Right.
the Hollywood version is way, but I was like, oh my God, we can't even really get to Peter the Great until we talk about his sister Sophia. Not only because it's so freaking juicy and dramatic, but because it actually starts off Peter's czardom is what happens with his sister. So we got so Alex, excuse me, not Alex, Peter the Great. Anytime there's the great behind their name, you rest assured it's not that great. Okay, so Peter,
They like to elevate themselves for sure.
They do. Look how great you're only great to the ruling caste. You're not that great to the peasants of society. But y'all, all right. So let's back up a little bit. So Peter the Great was the grandson of Michael. If you guys remember from last week, if you missed the show last week, go back and look. So Michael the First was the first Romanov. After the whole times of trouble happened, it came from his aunt Anastasia Romanov. We said it started with an Anastasia, it ended with an Anastasia. So Peter is Michael's grandson, okay? So Peter was born on June the 9th of 1672 in Moscow, Russia, to Alexis I of Russia, who was Michael's son, and his second wife, Natalia. Now, you guys, hell, didn't Shakespeare say, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned? These wives, y'all, these wives, the families of these wives are going to be part of the problem too. There is going to be some fighting going on over who has the power. Now, Peter was the 14th child of Alexis I, okay? So Alexis's first wife was this chick named Maria. Now, unlike last week when we talked about all these people dying from being poisoned and then getting sent to nunneries because they weren't good in bed. Again, if you missed that episode, y'all, history is fantastic. If you missed that episode last week, go watch it because literally women were dying off from poisoning or they were getting sent to nunneries because they were shit in bed. So
at least it wasn't killing them anymore. It just
right,
said at least
just got shipped to a nunnery. But Maria, who was Alexis's first wife, she legitimately died right after childbirth. So there was no real scandal around her death. It was after she gave birth to her 13th child that she passed away. So Natalia was taken as his second wife. Okay. And it was a few years after his first wife died. So there wasn't like a huge crossover between the two wives. But nonetheless, when we're looking at the boyars or the aristocrats, which again, we talked about last week, we're looking at families playing chess especially with women, right? Because women are chess pieces. So they get moved around for families to hold power because women don't really have power only power a woman has at this point in history. And for a lot of history, a lot of this time was her uterus. Like that was basically it. If we're being just real logical about this. So aristocratic boyars would use their daughters to strike deals in order to gain more power in the country. And so you've got the family of Maria, and then you've got the family of Natalia. Now, with the first batch of kids with Maria, you've got like 5 sons. Now, I have this here. Only 3 lived past infancy, though. So 2 died in infancy. 1 died at the age of 15. So that left 2 sons with Maria, the first sons that were still alive, that were in line for the throne. So we had the son Theodore, then Ivan, and then Peter was from Natalia. So Peter was 3rd in line under Theodore and Ivan. Now, okay, all of Maria's children were born slightly sickly. A lot of her kids had a blood condition, which reminds me a lot of the last episode we're going to be doing, which is about the Bolshevik Revolution and another Alexei who had hemophilia from inbreeding through the royal family. And there's another blood issue. Some people described this blood disorder being caused by scurvy, which is kind of confusing to me because scurvy is usually what you see people on boats that don't have vitamin C get scurvy, but I guess there's different variations of different blood disorders. So for me, this also screams, and I'm not a biologist, but it just seems like this is another sign of inbreeding to me, is that like,
yeah, it would make sense. There's lots of dodgy things that happen when you've been shagging your cousins and your siblings.
I mean, nature has a way of telling us don't do this. Even animals in the wild know not to boink their siblings or their cousins, right? Like, how can you can't figure this out? If you share grandparents, you're kind of like siblings. You shouldn't be boinking each other, right? So that's just now that's my assumption. I did not see that in any other research, but I was like, common sense, street smarts is telling me this was due to inbreeding. Now, Theodore, the son that was first in line after his 3 older brothers had died, really, really severely suffered from this blood condition. Now, mentally, though, he was competent. Mentally, and we're going to get to Theodore because he does reign for a little while. And I really, out of all of these characters we're looking at, I like Theodore. Theodore is the one that I can say I actually really like him. His health was just really bad. Like, he had really bad health because of this blood disorder, but mentally, he was really smart. Ivan, on the other hand, the second younger brother, basically was a dummy. Like, he had this blood condition too. But, and I don't mean to sound rude. I said this last week too, with another distant cousin that was also very incompetent. You know, when you look at somebody, just look at them. Usually you can't tell specifically their intellectual capacity, right? You don't know. So I'm thinking that maybe there was some Down syndrome because there had to have been something going on where the common folk could also just see the person and know that maybe being the leader of a country wasn't the best thing and that wasn't the best job for them, right? So I don't know if that's true or not. Of course, all we have are paintings and paintings can be altered. So that is my assumption. Like I said last week, there might have been some Down syndrome happening as well, because with Ivan, so we have this fear with Theodore and Ivan. First of all, Theodore, his health's not that great, but intellectually wise, he is intellectual enough to run a country, but his health's not that great. They're not expecting him. They didn't actually expect him to live longer than Alexei, his dad, which he does, which we'll get to because his health was so poor. But he's smart enough to run the country. Ivan, however, also has this blood condition, but is freaking dumb. And so there's already a lot of concern with the Boyars, which is, the aristocrats, about what the hell is going to happen once Alexei dies, okay, who is the Tsar right now. And then Peter is born with Natalia. Well, Peter is born very, very healthy and very, very robust. And so there's this huge sigh of relief once Peter is born, because at least now there's a healthy boy. Shows no sign of any type of inherited blood disorder. So, of course, this is going to cause tension between the family of Maria, wife number 1, and the family of Natalia, wife number 2, because now the Boyars are excited about Peter because the 2 sons of Maria are not stable. And it does seem that Peter did eventually become Alexis's favorite son. Peter was not raised in Moscow. He was raised in the country. So, and I do think we're going to really talk about this when we get to his sister. I think where Peter was raised really, did him a lot of good, in the sense that he was raised in the fresh air. He was raised away from the court, so the stress of court. He had all the same tutors that his half siblings had, that just sent out to the country home to tutor him. He was able to play outside a lot. He wasn't watched as much as the other kids were. And I think all of this does play to Peter's advantage later on in life. Not saying that he was a great dude, but right now we're looking at his childhood. Well, at this point now, y'all, get this. Get this, my friends. At this point, now remember, Russia, or the territory we know as Russia, is super orthodox in their religion. They are like they're the Mac Christiansons. Like, they're the Christianist of Christianist people, right? They're Russian Orthodox. So it was illegal at this point in Russia, peasant or otherwise, to listen to music or to dance.
Wow.
Okay. Which, now let's think about Russia today. We look at Russia as a huge country with great arts. The Russian ballet. We have great playwright Stanislavski comes from Russia. I think of Russia as being very, very, very creative and very respected amongst the artistic community. So how did this happen? This happened with Natalia, the second wife, because Natalia, her mother was Scottish. So this means that Natalia, the second wife, even though she was born and raised in Russia, she had a lot of influence herself from the Western European world, which we know are, you guys, when you think, like when I think of Peter the Great, I think of the Navy and I think of the Westernization of Russia. Those are the two things that he was really famous for. But it was really Natalia, his mother, who first opened the door to this Westernization of Russia. Okay, it was her that really, and of course, she was the one primarily raising Peter because his dad was off being the Tsar, you know, so she was the one that was really, really influencing Peter a lot. And so Natalia was the one that convinced Alexis I to implement orchestras in dancing. So it was through Alexis I that we got the theater system of Russia, that like the Russian ballet. And in fact, in some of my research, it stated that he would have like 10-hour plays that people, I mean, could you imagine? I love my plays. I love my Broadway, but I cannot sit there for 10 hours. You know, so I mean, that's
2 hours is good. 2 hours is good, thanks.
Listen, at some point, my butt's burning. I gotta go pee. I need a snack. Like, enough's enough, right? So, but that's just, I kind of think that's like you repress something so long that all of a sudden when it's now deemed okay, it's like you can't get enough of it, right? So Natalia was basically like, look, dancing's fun, honey, and like brought this into that culture. All right. Now, Alexis died earlier than he was expected to die. He went out on a hunting trip. He got sick, and then over a course of a few weeks passed away. I looked into the poisoning thing. There's no indication that he was, for all intent and purposes, no one really had any issues with Alexis. You know, the only issues Alexis I had, and you're going to hear me go between Alexis and Alexei, guys, because Alexei was like a nickname. Alexis was his official name. He didn't really seem to have a whole lot of issues besides the fact that his two wives have these competing families, but as long as he's still alive, everything's under control, right? So he goes on this hunting expedition, gets sick. He's like in his early 50s at this point, like dies 10 days later. He's on his deathbed and he dies 10 days later. Well, a lot was going on when he was on his deathbed because all of a sudden the Boyers were like, oh shit, like what are we going to do? He's going to die. We've got Theodore who can handle it intellectually, but we know he's not going to last too long. And then we've got Ivan, who literally cannot be on the throne. And then we've got Peter, who could be on the throne. So at this point, there are Boyers in there trying to convince Alexis to change his will and make Peter, just go ahead and make Peter his heir due to the other boys' health issues. Well, his daughter, Sophia, now we get introduced to Sophia. Sophia is Alexis's daughter through Maria. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about her after we get through Alexis's death for a second here. But Sophia is kind of like a daddy's girl to an extent. She's very close with her father. And she's on her father's deathbed saying, you can't do this, Dad. You have to put Theodore in as your heir because technically speaking, he is your oldest son. He is your heir. This is her full brother, Theodore. Peter's her half brother. All right. She keeps telling her father that if he makes Peter the heir apparent and skips over his older two sons, then it's going to cause like civil unrest in Russia because it's breaking the tradition of the first son being the next in line. Honestly, you guys, I don't think the peasants really cared. I think they were too busy trying to like feed themselves to care, but that was the story. So with that being said, Alexis said, yes, Theodore, he is my next in line. He will inherit the throne. So after Alexis passes away, Theodore was crowned Theodore III on the 9th of June, 1661. And I laughed that this was actually like this would have been Peter's like, what? His 9th birthday or something. So anyway, that sucks. Like to have your brother's getting crowned on your freaking birthday. Like that's, as a little kid, I just thought that sucks. I can see a little kid being bummed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if they did birthday parties like we do birthday parties, but anyway, so
don't ask. I shudder to think what they could have been doing then
for birthday parties. Yeah, but anyway, but so Theodore was so sick that he had to be carried in. to the coronation. He could not even walk to his own coronation. That's how sick he was. So the gossip mill, the rumors already started kicking up in Russia at this time. Like, oh my God, this is our Tsar. He's not going to last. Now, again, like I said, I really like Theodore. In the short amount of time that he was the Tsar, which was like less, I mean, he died on April 27th, 1682. So he was only 21 years old when he died. So he did not serve that long on the throne. But let me just talk about a few things Theodore did while he was the Tsar, because I really do like Theodore. So first of all, he rebuilt Moscow. At this point, Moscow was prone to forest fires and prone to having just the town just really suffered a lot with natural disasters. And so Theodore fortified all the buildings with stones. He felt responsible for the people of Moscow, and he wanted to make sure that he could make the city strong for the people. Like, Theodore really did seem to care about the people of Russia, which should be the point with all of these rulers, but unfortunately it's very rare to find a ruler who really cares. And so he was able to create buildings in Moscow that would take the fire and would keep his people safe. Another thing he did, guys, like, get this, y'all, get this. He had a book burning party, but not the book burning that you were thinking. There were these books of nobles where they had their ranks and their pedigrees. And get this revolutionary idea that Theodore had. Theodore did not believe that your place of birth gave you privileges to rule the country.
Right.
He believed people needed to earn their place in government. And so he had all the books that gave the genealogy of the nobles and their privileges burned so that they could not use that as a bargaining tool to control the country, to control the people.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Isn't that really cool? I thought that was really cool, where he was like, even though I'm the Tsar now, because I was the first in line, I'm going to say this is kind of bullshit, and people need to earn their place in government because we need to be. Theodore he really seemed to care about the people of Russia. That seemed to really be his priority, and not the aristocrats. So and he even broke the rules with marriage. He married a peasant girl that he loved. And the boyars were not happy with him, but he married her. Now, she did get pregnant with what turned out to be a son. And if that pregnancy, if that son had survived, then we would not get into the mess that we're about to get into, okay? His wife passed away soon after childbirth, and the baby died like 6 days later. And after that happened, Theodore was devastated. He was already sickly. He was already devastated. And he didn't live that much longer afterwards. So he died on the 27th of April, 1682. He was only 21 years old. And at that point, the boyars, because Theodore left no heirs, the boyars are freaking panicking at this point. Panicking. Now, I want to make something clear, too, about Theodore. When it came to the children of Maria and the children of Natalia, it was 2 children from Natalia, Peter, and then he had a little sister. No one cares about the girls, though. It's always the boys. So I don't know much about his little sister. So there were 13 kids from the first, 2 from the second, right before Alexis died. So there was a lot of tension between the 2 factions of children as well because of the family.
Who had all these kids with one mother?
Well, 13 from the first wife, 2 from the second wife. So now, Theodore, out of all the 13 children from the first wife, Theodore loved Peter and loved Peter's sister. He considered Peter and Peter's sister to be they were his half siblings, but, and I know people like that who have half siblings, that's their sibling. Like, there's no half. That's my boyfriend's that way. He has 2 sisters that are his half sisters. They share a father. And those are just his sisters. He doesn't call them his half sisters. Those are his sisters. And that's how Theodore was. Peter and Peter's little sister were his siblings. And he loved Peter. He loved Peter's sister. He treated them just like he treated his own full-blooded siblings. He loved his stepmother, Natalia. He was constantly asking Natalia for advice. He was constantly relying on her to be a mother figure in his life. So out of all the 13 original children of the first wife, Theodore, to me, seems like the only one that had a freaking soul, right? And that had compassion and love and understood things and really just loved people. And so he basically, because he embraced Peter as a brother, when he passed away, the Boyars started again to panic and be like, we cannot put Ivan on the throne. We cannot do it. We're going to make Peter the Tsar. And Peter at this point is a kid, and so he has to have what's called a regent, which I think most people know what that is. So if you crown a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy, they cannot rule at that age. And so they have regents. They have people that kind of rule in their place. And like, it's usually an uncle or a mother or somebody that loves the child that's going to like help them learn, give them the education to learn so that when they come of age, they can take over and be the ruler. So they make Natalia, Peter's mother, his regent. Well, my friends, remember Sophia? Remember Cersei Lancaster? I want you to think in your head. I want you to play that Game of Thrones. I wish we didn't have such thing as copyright laws, or we could just play the Game of Thrones theme song.
Yeah, that's the whole music. Yeah, wow.
Sophia's not gonna have. She's not here for it. She is not gonna. She's not gonna have it. Well, let's talk a little bit before we get into what Sophia does. Let's talk a little bit about Sophia and what Sophia's life is like, because Lord have mercy on my soul. I'm so glad that I am not one of these princesses, because let's talk about this. So Sophia Alexeyevna was her full name. She was born on the 17th of September, 1657 to Alexis and his first wife, Maria. She would end up becoming the first female ruler of Russia through her brothers. She never liked Peter, never liked Natalia. Now remember, her and Natalia are probably around the same age, because she's old enough to be, she's one of the older children she's old enough to be Peter's mom. Like she's way older than Ivan. She's way older than Peter. All right. She was the only princess, the only daughter of Alexis to receive the full education that her brothers received. So let me just talk about these ladies' lives for a little while. So all the princesses, and there were a lot of them, basically when a princess was born to the Tsar, she was basically going to be living a life as a prisoner in the castle. What do I mean by this? So you know how I said the aristocrats use their daughters as pawn pieces, and we see the Western royal houses using their daughters as pawn pieces? That doesn't happen for the Tsar in Russia. So the daughters of the Tsar don't get used like that. Only the aristocrat daughters get used like that. Why? Because your father is the Tsar. So there's nobody in all the land who matches you in your bloodline. So you are the daughter of the highest. Remember, because a Tsar is not a king. A Tsar is a Caesar. So there's no other prince or royal person out there in the lands of Europe that can hold your nobility, right? And as a girl, you either have to marry equal in nobility or up. So there's no husbands in Russia or anywhere to match them. Also, they are Russian Orthodox. So religiously speaking, there's no one to match them. So what's a princess to do? So a princess is born into Moscow at the Kremlin. She lives her whole life on the grounds of the Kremlin. She only has an education up to the age of 10. So basically she learns how to read and write. That's it. She learns how to read and write. And then she spends the rest of her life in worship. Even if the princesses were to leave the property for whatever reason, they had to have, and I did not send pictures of this, guys, but you can look it up. There are, now I'm thinking I should have sent a picture. They had paintings of people. Royal attendants would hold blankets up over the princesses so no one could lay eyes on them.
Wow.
So these girls, so even though there is a song on the radio, I think it's by Doja Cat, like She's a Devil. It's a song that's all. Anyway, when I think of Sophia, I think of this song, She's a Devil. Anyway, because she's a devil. She's not the greatest person in the world. She's definitely, in my opinion, a psychopath. But I can't understand her angst being born in this situation. Even though you're living in the lap of luxury with servants, you can't leave the grounds. You can't get.
It's completely lonely. Yeah, it's completely lonely.
All you
Isolated.
have are your other sisters to keep you company. The only men that can actually look at you are your siblings. You can't have anybody like look at you who is beneath you in rank because you're the Tsar's daughters. I mean, it's a terrible life to live. And so after the age of 10, Sophia begged her father if she could continue studying with her brothers. And so her father was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. He was like, I could see, you don't have much of a life in front of you. If education is going to entertain you, get your education. And so this is where she starts to show her willingness and her longing to have some sort of a place in Russia, to have a job. Basically, she wants to be a girl boss. Like, she wants to be a boss lady. She wants to have a job. She wants to do something because she can't get married. She can't do anything like that. She'll never have children, all that kind of stuff. Gone. She can't leave the premises of the castle. Like, she is a total prisoner. So when the Boyars make Peter the Great Tsar after her brother Theodore's death, she gets pissed. She wants them to put the crown back on Ivan and allow her to rule as regent, or actually, excuse me, sorry about that, not rule as regent, but to co-rule with Ivan. Because she knows Ivan can't handle it. So she's like, can I be the Tsar too? Can we co-rule? Which, of course, she can't do that. She's a woman. What are you, crazy? She can't do that. So they're like, no, honey, pat you on the head. Go back to your sheets. Go back to the property. And so she gets pissed. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Now she's a woman who can't leave the premises. So what's a girl to do? What's a damsel in distress to do? How's she going to stop Peter from being crowned the Tsar? Well, my friends, she's going to gossip. She's going to start some rumors. All right? So she starts this vicious rumor, that Theodore was killed by Natalia, was poisoned by Natalia. I don't believe this at all. I think we know poisoning is an issue with these royal families, so she's gonna take advantage of this. All right. She said that Natalia was also caught trying to strangle Ivan. We have no record of this. Like, of course, Ivan's being watched all the time by his attendants. We have no historical record of Natalia being nothing but kind to the children. So we know this is a rumor started by Natalia. She's also claiming that because the Boyars have disregarded the official ruling line of the elite, that now God is, because they believe in divine right, that God has appointed them as ruler. We know that their God is Lucifer, so that makes sense to me. But regardless, she's now convinced all these people that because the Boyars have disregarded God's reign, that all hell is going to break out in Russia. So this triggers the peasants, because I don't think they give a crap who's on the throne. They just don't want their lives interrupted. So this is fake news, guys. She is the master. She was the master of fake, yeah, exactly, of psyops before psyoping was even a thing. She is the psyopy of psyopist women. She is the Cersei Lancaster, you guys. So I mean, you gotta hand it to her. It's quite smart. She knows she can't fight militaristically. She knows there's not a whole lot she can do, but she can gossip. And so we have what's called the Moscow Uprising of 1682. Y'all, her gossip calls an actual uprising. Like, wow. I mean, to the point where the Kremlin was being attacked, people were losing their lives. It was like a freaking war. And so the Boyars were like, okay. Here's what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do, okay? We're going to make Ivan and Peter co-czars. They're going to czar together. They're going to be partners and czars. And they're going to need a regent because they're both underage. They're both children. They're little boys. Like, Ivan's only a few years older than Peter, right? So they're little boys at this point. And so they need a regent. So they tell Sophia, because I think the Boyars are a little bit afraid of Sophia. So, just a little bit. A little afraid of her. So they say, Sophia, you be their regent. And so Sophia says, okay. And so she becomes their regent. Now, basically what happens at this point is Sophia now sends Peter into exile with his mother. It's not officially exile because officially he's the Tsar, but he's not she just sends him out of Moscow back to the country where he's most comfortable, right? And he's like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid. He doesn't care. He just wants to play, right? So this will end up biting Maria in the ass later on, because at this point, Peter becomes really good friends with a bunch of the local boys. Like they play together, they play military together a lot. He's got his group, his wolf pack of guy friends. I say boyfriends, not that way, but like little boys who are in his little friend group, right? And so they end up developing over the years, like any child does with your childhood friends, they end up developing this really strong bond with Peter. And this, even though Peter's going to turn out to be kind of a scoundrel, not that great of a guy, at this point, seeing Peter as a child, it's very innocent. And I think that's really sweet. Like he's got this group of friends that don't just see him as Peter the Tsar, but see him as their friend Peter, right? They're developing really strong ties with a friend. Okay, and this is going to bite Sophia in the ass later on. So Sophia and Ivan are living in the Kremlin. Ivan is her full-blooded brother. Peter's her half-brother. And Sophia is basically the Tsar at this point. And she makes no bones about this. She literally is ruling as the Tsar. I don't think she's really telling her two little brothers anything. Now, I did not send this picture either, you guys, but this is adorable. You can look this up. They created, so when foreign diplomats would come in to do business with Russia, they would have to see Peter and Ivan. So traditionally speaking, they would have to actually see the boys. So they built a dual throne. It kind of looks like those carriages people have for when they have two babies. So it was like this dual throne for these boys. And behind one, there was a box where an adult, Sophia, would tell the little boys what to say to the people coming in from other countries. And I just picture this in my head as two little boys with their feet probably don't even touch the earth, just swinging their legs. All they want to do is go outside and play. And Sophia's sitting back there whispering in their ears, telling them what to say to these foreign ambassadors. Sophia had such a reputation of her tsardom that when they painted her official picture, and I don't know if you can show it, Shanti, I sent you, it's not the black and white one. The black and white one I sent you by mistake. It's the colored portrait painting where she's wearing, they painted her like a czar. They actually painted her like a czar. I mean, there's a bit of a 5 o'clock. That's her. That's a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow there. And when I saw that, I was like, I think she's a lesbian.
I think she has too much testosterone.
Looks like she needs to please. She needs to wax her chin a little bit. But you know, that's how they painted czars back then, with she's got the ball and the freaking specter and the crown. That's a czar. That's how much people feared Sophia. So even though officially she was not the czar, she was the regent. For all intents and purpose, she was in charge. And
absolutely, you could see that. I want to just see that again. She's got that look in her eye, boy. She's a lady boss.
She's a lady boss. And I'm telling you guys, the actress who played Cersei Lancaster was way better looking than this chick.
I know that. She's very gorgeous, actually. I can't remember her name, but I remember her being really pretty.
Really pretty. So, listen, I don't mean to sound mean. And God knows I have a bloodline through the royal family too, but they're not the most attractive people in the world. That's also what happens with inbreeding too, guys. People aren't that cute when you inbreed. So
exactly.
So she's supposed to, so the deal is that once Peter becomes of age, Sophia is supposed to step down as regent and go live the rest of her life as a nunnery. So now at this point, this is kind of funny too. So at this point, so Ivan's going to turn of age first before Peter. But because Ivan is so dumb, she needs to stay regent until Peter comes of age, because if Ivan's the only one of age, Russia's going to go downhill fast because he's dumb, right? So that's why she stays regent until Peter becomes of age, the youngest one, because then it can be really left in Peter's hand. Ivan's just going to sit there like a figurehead, and Peter's going to be the one that's going to be really the czar. Well, at this point too, so what's supposed to happen? Let's say Peter and Ivan both live really long lives and they're like co-czars. Well, basically the czardom would be passed down with whoever had the first son. So if Ivan had a son first, it would go to him, or if Peter had a son first, it would go to Peter's son. So now the race is on for babies. So both Ivan and Peter are arranged into marriage pretty quickly. And Peter is technically underage at this point. He's like 17. which is still underage at that point. Now, Peter's mom, Natalia, played this right because she arranged his marriage, Natalia. She didn't find the smartest chick in the world, but she found a real sturdy one, a real healthy one. And so Peter was definitely the first to have a son. And Ivan only had daughters. Maybe Ivan could only, some people, you know, whether you have a boy or a girl, for those that don't know, depends on the man's sperm. Either the man gives an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. So some men can't have daughters or can't have sons. Like you know, my mom comes from all girls. Like, so there are just some men that will only give an X chromosome, because that could have been what was happening with Ivan. But Peter did end up having a son. But nonetheless, even before babies could happen, Ivan does eventually pass away, which we're going to get to, but not yet, because Ivan's still alive. All right, so Peter comes of age. So now Sophia is supposed to step down. Listen, you don't get 5 o'clock.
Look at the face again with this face.
Yeah, you don't get a 5 o'clock shadow like that as a female, and you're just really
that face ain't stepping down from nothing, sister.
She is not gonna step down. She's like, oh no, I'm not doing. And remember, guys, she hates Peter. Like, she hates Peter. She hates his mother. She hates their family. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And he turns of age June the 9th, 1689. She has no intention of giving up her power. So I'm laughing because she tried to do the same thing that she did prior. She decides, my gossip mill worked the first time, so I'm going to try gossiping the second time. So she tries to spread rumors again, to start a revolt again against Natalia and Peter. Like, this is days of our lives, you guys. This is like Dallas. This is why history is so juicy, y'all. Like, this is better than any reality. To be a
and those days, I mean, there was no holds bars, right? But
no.
I mean, it was like vicious and cruel, and boy,
they were boinking their siblings and cutting their siblings' heads off at the same time.
Right.
Guys. Like,
exactly.
We are not like them. I think we've already figured that out, but we are not the same as them. They live in a different world. So she claimed that there were assassinations planned for Ivan and Sophia. She started paying people to support this conspiracy. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like they've been doing the whole payoff for a long time now. So she's paying people to go out there and spread these rumors. All right. And she conspired that as a defense, she would have to have the military execute Peter and his family. So she's going to start this whole rumor that there are plans from Natalia's family to assassinate her and her brother Ivan. And so she has this whirlwind of just fear and psyops. And so the solution, what create the problem, create the solution, problem, reaction, solution. We've seen them work this formula multiple times. And so now the solution, in order to protect Ivan, is to have Peter and his family all executed. Okay. But before that can happen, somebody has Peter's back. So somebody goes to Peter and his mother and says, this is what's going on with your sister, your half-sister, Sophia. This is what she's saying. She's paying people. Your life is in danger. And so Peter and his mother are taken at this point into hiding by part of the Russian military. So what worked the first time for Sophia is starting to crumble the second time. Because people are, I think people are probably over her too. She seems like a little bit of a tyrant. So I think they're just kind of like, we need to get this girl out of here. Like, it's just only supposed to be a temporary arrangement. And I think this is hysterical, because at this point, Peter goes into hiding. And I'm paraphrasing this with modern terms, guys, but he's mortified at this point, because he recognizes, now again, I'm going to say this from the perspective of this time period of the 1600s, not from the perspective of 2024. So I don't need any feminists coming after me. I'm a woman. Shanti's a woman. We're both independent, strong alpha women. I'm saying this from the perspective of the 1600s. Peter's like, we look like chumps because our sister is bossing us around. So he writes Ivan a letter, and he's like, bro, what is happening? Bro.
No, enough. Yeah.
Do you, bro, like, you're my brother. We the czar, not her. Like, technically, by law, you and I are in charge of this country. We're the czar. We're the czariest of czars. We're the kingiest of kings. We're the Caesars. She's supposed to be in a nunnery. Like, bro, like, she is out of control. Like, she is out of control. If we continue, and he has a good point here, my guys, my friends. He says, if we continue to allow our sister to boss us around and play Simon Says with our country, we're going to get invaded. Because if we are the rulers of this nation and our enemies are watching us, or our neighbors are watching us, laughing at us because our sister is telling, we look like weak men.
Yeah, she's got the run of the show there. I think it might be Hillary Clinton reincarnated.
Probably. I mean, look at that.
I think Hillary Clinton might be her reincarnation.
I mean, y'all, like, I just laughed. Of course, when I was reading through the letter that Peter wrote, and you guys can read the letter. It's very eloquently written for the 1600s, but I'm like, he's basically calling him and his brother pussies. Like, he's like, we are the laughing stock of all the kings around Europe are laughing at us right now because we are allowing our sister to, well, she has us by the balls, and we're not going to do this anymore. So now again, Ivan, I believe, in my personal opinion, that Ivan has Down syndrome. That's just what I believe, just what I've read it. So, and I'm not trying to knock Down syndrome. I actually really like people with Down syndrome. I think they're really sweet. Like, they're really funny. Like, but with that being said, I don't think Ivan was really too engaged probably in his role as czar. He probably was just happier by himself anyway. So really Peter was kind of doing a courtesy call to Ivan, like, I'm gonna have to stand up to this bitch because we're gonna get invaded otherwise, right? So basically Peter starts calling the shots at this point. And because he's the czar, right? Let's not forget that, guys. She has no leg to stand on. She has no leg to stand on because technically by Russian law, he and Ivan are the rulers. They're the CEOs of Russia. All right. So now at this point, all those little boys that because he's still out in the country in his little country estate, all those boys that he grew up with, that he became besties with, they're all grown men now. They're all 18, 19, 20 years old. They meet with Peter and form their own military. And it turns out they're really good at doing military stuff because guess what they did as children, what they played. I mean, little boys, when I was a kid, I know this isn't PC to say, but when I was a kid, little boys played cowboys and Indians. Boys play war. They play that as kids. They play that with their friends. That's what these little boys play. So even though they're playing war, they were subconsciously getting an education in battle, and they know each other. They know each other. If you got to be on the battlefield with somebody, you want to be on the battlefield with somebody that you've known your whole life, right? Because you know their every move, you know their every weakness. And so they come to Peter and they're like, we are your military now. We're your knights. We stand behind you. And so Peter's like, let's take my sister down. So Peter's in his castle out in the exiled farmlands, and he's saying, Sophia, you best step down, honey. And she says no. So we have we're talking a sibling fight to end all sibling fights. Like, I know siblings get into fights, but did you and your sibling ever take a country down while you were fighting? No. Like, this is the sibling fight to end all sibling fights. So on August 13th, Sophia sent a boyar to Peter to try to negotiate, because now she realizes what's also happening to Sophia is she's starting to realize the harsh reality that she doesn't have as much support as she did before. Peter's a grown man now, so their times have changed. People are not, the whole country isn't behind Sophia anymore. And so she sends a boyar to Peter to negotiate. He comes back, no negotiation. August 16th, 3 days later, she sends another boyar to negotiate with Peter. He comes back, no deal. August 20th, 4 days later, she sends the same Boyar to once again try to negotiate with Peter. And this time, the Boyar doesn't go back to Sophia. He just stays with Peter. He just changes sides. He's like, that bitch crazy. And she's got a beard. I'm going to stay with you. There's a reason why she needs to stay behind the curtain.
There's no X in those days.
So she's now lost that negotiating tactic. So August 27th, Sophia goes to Peter in person to negotiate. And he says no deal, but he lets her go this time. He lets her go. August 31st, she realizes that her scheme is not working. So now she tries to gaslight the people of Russia and the Boyars by telling them she didn't create the rumors. It wasn't little old Sophia that created the rumors about how there was assassination plot against her and Ivan. That wasn't her. I didn't make that rumor up. So she literally tries to start gaslighting people because she knows she's screwed. On September 4th, those who remained loyal to Sophia started to get arrested because Peter is the Tsar. He's being real patient at this time with this sister of his who's playing pretend with the crown and the specter. Now her supporters are going to start to get arrested. So he's trying to get her to just concede and go live off in the nunnery. All right. On September 9th, Sophia is officially stripped of her title, and Peter orders her to a nunnery. So she's officially stripped of any of her titles, and he's ordered her to go to a nunnery. On September 12th, her main supporters are executed. So the main supporters that she had that never relented are now publicly executed. All right, October 16th, Peter moves to Moscow. So he officially moves in with his army into the Kremlin. At this point, Sophia is sent to live in a nunnery, but now she's sent to live in a nunnery as a prisoner. He has her held captive in a nunnery as a prisoner at this point because he cannot trust his sister. She's proven past behavior is the prediction of future behavior. She's already proven that she's willing to do anything it takes to maintain power, not just for herself, but for her mother's family. And so she's sent to a nunnery and she is basically put under lock and key. Now, granted, she's put under lock and key, but she has a full staff of servants. Peter does make sure that she is sent proper food from the palace. So she eats like a king, basically. You can tell by her belly, she's eating like a king. So even though she's a prisoner of his, he treats her really, really, really well. Now, on February 8th, 1696, Ivan dies of bad health with no male heirs. He's only 29 years old. So at this point, now Peter the Great is actually the sole Tsar, not just on paper. Now, I'm going to leave this for next week on a bit of a cliffhanger because do we really think Sophia is just going to, I mean, look at that girl. Look at her in her 5 o'clock shadow. Do we?
Hang on, wait. Is there another picture? Should I show another picture?
No, that's just like accidentally sent you the wrong picture. Send the and then I have a picture of Peter too, so you guys can see a picture. Now look at the eyes of that chick. Do you really think she's gonna sit in a nunnery?
She's a boy. I swear, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a boy.
Oh God, she is so freaking ugly. That girl. I mean,
she's already a tranny.
I mean, I think she was a lesbian. I think she identified as a he. Her Instagram profile was or she might have been a Zay Zim. I don't know. A Zay, yeah. So y'all really think she's just gonna be like, oh shucks, I'm in the nunnery now and I'm just gonna live with my servants? No, the full 9 years that she's held in captivity, she is constantly writing letters back and forth to try to get the throne back. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. A little cliffhanger for next week, guys, before we get. So I hope you guys enjoyed that just as much as I enjoyed that.
No, we love you. We love you, Professor Brice. Prof. Brice.
I haven't even looked at any of the comments because I have been, I was just so into that story.
Love that story.
Do you see what Lanessa said here? The Boyars, like Rothschild's original name. That's a really good point. I don't know if there's any connection, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were connections because, I mean, Theodore basically told us all we needed to know about the Boyars, didn't he, when he had their books burned? You know? So, yeah. Anyway, that's Sophia, you guys. And so I just, if all else fails, y'all, and when you're having a bad day, as women, we have those days where we look in the mirror and we just don't think we look pretty. Just print out a picture of Sophia with her 5 o'clock shadow.
You'll feel like a beauty.
Oh, you're so gorgeous. Like, at least you don't have a 5 o'clock shadow with a beer belly, you know. So,
and even if you do, you got wax.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yep. So anyway, so we will pick up next week with Sophia's shenanigans, and we'll also get into the shenanigans of Peter the Great as well, you guys. Because we gotta hit a couple of these landmarks in the Romanov family before we get to the execution of the Romanov line to really understand why the people of Russia were so aggravated towards the Romanovs in general. So
great. Well, looking forward to that. And that is a take for today. So we shall see you all back on Monday, and in fact on Wednesday with Brice again on solutions. And we're planning something more lighthearted in the future as well. So we will let you know.
I know. I'm so excited about that, y'all. I listen. I just decided I'm petty. I've just decided that
definitely very petty.
It's just a part of me, and that's why I love history, because history ain't nothing but pettiness.
Exactly. Yeah, we deal with so many heavy topics. So we were just chatting a little bit off air now. Have an idea or two to do some fun things as well. We'll let you know. Okay, y'all.
I'm just trying to see if there were any questions that I missed as I was not looking at the comic. And I appreciate that, Sean, that I make complicated stuff understandable. Thanks, Sean. That really, I hope I said your name correctly. That makes me, it's actually, a lot of times with these documents that people, historical documents and sensitive, they use words that make it sound complicated. But if you really just sit back and think about it, it's not that complicated. Because human beings, we're the same. Like, we're the same as, that's why we still study shake. That's why yoga has been around for 5,000 years, because we just don't, our emotions don't change, right? We're still jealous. We have jealousy, deceit, scandal, heartbreak, joy, love, sorrow. Like, we're the same as we were.
Exactly. We're just human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah. We got women with 5 o'clock shadows that needed a beautician, still got those women today, but now they know how to wax. So yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, guys. Take it easy, and we shall see you on. I have Alice Parola tomorrow, so join me for Alice Parola's show tomorrow. And then Wednesday we've got Jesse and Brice again. Thursday, of course, we have Caleb. Friday, Catherine Edwards. Saturday, Brock from Nasara 17. I'll be interviewing him. And then again, of course, Sunday with Caleb. So take it easy, everybody. God bless you all. And I wish for you health, wealth, and all the abundance in the best possible way you could possibly manage. See ya.
Bye, you guys.